two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Inside Movies Galore. I am your host, David Streggy, and here in the room with me, I have the one and only, the great Lloyd Kaufman. How are you doing?
Well, hey, I see Dane Keel here. This is a major event for me.
I know.
Forest is beyond my pay scale. I can't even imagine.
Well, Dane here has been pretty much with me on my own film journey here, and it would not feel right without him being on here. So I hopefully you don't mind the company.
No, very cool.
Alrighty. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with the independent film industry? I'm curious.
Well, the good news is I've written 7 books. So there's a memoir called All I Need to Know About Filmmaking I Learned from the Toxic Avenger. And we have a streaming channel, Troma Now, which is on Roku and all the other things. And there's a lot of very personal videos in there about so I can't really give you the whole story. When Dana and I were in a jail cell together, I told him my whole life story, but it was, at least a week of him listening to me. But basically, I made the mistake of going to Yale University, getting roomed in a tiny little bedroom with the guy who ran the Yale Film Society, and I discovered movies. I didn't even know what a film director was. I thought Charlie Chaplin was just a goofy clown. I didn't realize he wrote, directed, acted, wrote the music, probably made the actual celluloid. I had no idea he was a director. I never heard that term. Anyway, that led to my watching a lot of auteur movies, and I stupidly decided to stay independent in New York underground and be miserable. But luckily, David has resurrected me from the dead, and thank you so much.
I appreciate it, and hopefully we can get enough of a story from your jail cell toilet paper that we can share with the audience. Well,
I'm afraid that toilet paper is a little bit. It was left in the hole that they gave us in the cells. It's like the African tradition. It's all verbal, and it has to be passed from generation to generation. So Dane is my whole life story, and more.
Lloyd is very familiar with the oral tradition.
You mean oral, like hearing? Yeah, I know what you mean. I love church music.
So, why don't you tell us a little bit about your first 2 features that I wanted to get a little bit on some of your earlier features, like The Girl Who Returned and Battle of Love's Return. How did you get involved with these projects, so to speak?
I asked myself the same question. They're unwatchable. Or people who want to be tortured, or maybe be on a very strong medication. The Girl Returned and Battle of Love's Return deal with this, themes of identity, and they just don't have all the good old stuff that Dane likes, sex and violence. But Battle of Love's Return was the first movie I had in movie theaters that the New York Times reviewed, and the big critics of the day were actually very generous. One of them compared me to Woody Allen.
And honestly, I can see that. Like people often compare you to Mel Brooks. I could see that. I can see the Woody Allen. I can see the influence of Charlie Chaplin, like with the Toxic Avenger. Now, before we aired, actually, Dave and I talked a little bit about your career. I've noticed that it can be lumped into a couple different eras. So like your early work, like you
I made
said.
lots of errors.
Well,
You count in a half hour.
but
Anyway, go on. Sorry.
what is art if not, a series of working through errors of various
And
kinds,
stepping
right?
stones, to be
And
honest.
stepping stones, yeah.
In fact, Oliver Stone started with me.
Yeah,
Speaking of stones,
Sugar cookies.
Matt Stone also.
that's right.
I'm a national treasure. Keep
You
going.
really, you really are. But well, but in that respect, so your early films, I've noticed, like you said, themes of identity, that sort of stuff, and then the sex comedies, and then mutants and monsters. That's what I call it with like Toxic Avenger, Classic Nukem High. Then we get to about the '90s, where you get into a lot of '90s to 2000s, where you do a lot of kind of societal reflections or even some personal reflections, like with Terra Firma. And then it does seem like now, with like the Return to Nukem High stuff and with Shakespeare Shitstorm, like you're finding new insights from some familiar names, whether yours or Shakespeare.
Well,
So
it's hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm. Very, very important because that's the major theme of the movie.
that's right.
Hashtag with the social, what do you call it? Social.
Commentary?
Well, no, just the whole social. The film deals in large part with the hashtag world. Hashtag me too. Hashtag you too. Hashtag too
Well,
much.
why don't we take that leap into the shitstorm? Let's hear a little bit about your newest project, and then we'll go back a little bit.
Well, hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm. Dane, you've seen it, no?
I know. Well,
I've seen it too.
I loved
Oh,
it.
great. Well, you guys, how did you? It'd be interesting to tell the fans, sort of your interpretation of hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm,
Oh,
which,
well,
by the
that's
way, has been rejected at just about every film festival, including the Salem Film Festival in Massachusetts, where they burn. They obviously,
Burn witches.
yeah, I know. They burn women and torture women, and they have a film festival, and I guess promoting this amazing historical village. Even they hated hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm. And I got a
yeah.
nasty email from the programmer, and they contacted me. I didn't contact them. They basically invited me until they saw the movie. Anyway, go on.
And yet the movie itself is kind of about
Yeah.
witch hunts in the social media age,
Yep.
So the irony is staggering.
Isn't that interesting?
I know. Well, but you asked about that. Well, I had the great privilege, thank you very much, of being able to work on the film in some small
Indeed,
way with
I
script consulting and all that.
I was
you did.
I was in the music video for the theme song by
That's
Theophobia.
right.
Hey,
right.
thank you. Well, thank
And
you, Forrest.
And I was
I
well, I
couldn't
was
see
very
Forrest for the
for the trees.
what is it called? The pandemic.
That's
Yes.
it. Well, but I had the great privilege of having worked on it in some small way, having seen the scripts in different stages, and then I see the thing realized on the screen, and it was a magical experience for me. It turned out so much better than I necessarily imagined it would, which is not to say that I imagined it wouldn't turn out well, but it just exceeded my expectations. And I thought this was among your best work, to be honest with you, because it seemed like a culmination of all these, and I mentioned the eras before. It seemed like a culmination of all these things that you've learned in your many years of having worked in independent film, plus new insights that can be derived from the world around you, especially in this unforeseen time of social media and pharmaceuticals and that kind of stuff. So on the one hand, I say bravo because I think you brought new insights to something that maybe people are too afraid to talk about, but also new insights within your own work and your own style. So I mean, there are very
and
few filmmakers that can do that at that stage in their career. So I think you're in a rarefied air in that respect.
Well, thank you, Dane. And why do you think that even the shitty film festivals rejected? Here's a guy who went to Yale, birthed Toxic Avenger and James Gunn and Eli Roth and Samuel Jackson and
The
blah blah
South
blah
Park guys.
books. Wouldn't you think somebody would have wanted hashtag Shakespeare's shitstorm? What
Yeah.
was it? What was it about that film that touches people so negatively?
I suspect, and again, this is just my hunches, but I suspect because we are in the atmosphere of kind of social media inspired, people always looking over each other's shoulders in case anyone could be perceived in any kind of negative way, that
Mm,
people are just too afraid to talk about a lot of real issues that are
mm,
not
good point. Yeah.
fashionable, or even just raising awareness of the fact that, hey, we need to have freedom of speech in the
Mhm.
true sense, and the free exchange of ideas. Something that even says that is somehow perceived as being subversive in some
Yeah.
way.
We have free speech as long as we don't say anything. You'd think
Exactly.
the film festivals would want to have a plus. Every festival that is shown, those giant genre festivals, our movies fill up their theaters, and
Mhm.
even the movies that the non-genre festivals show, they show our movies because they need to fill up their theaters with something.
Yeah.
What was it about this movie that was so offensive to the South by Southwest, and
I
usually they like our movies.
uh, I have no idea, but is there anyone interesting that is in the film that you wanted to tell us about?
Well, because you have some new stars in this, some new
Well,
trauma
certainly
luminaries.
Kate, who stars, and Aaron, who, by the way, are how do you say, an item.
In real life.
At least they
Nice.
were.
Mhm.
They're talented people. I mean, Kate is so funny. Kate McGarrett, whatever it is. Anyway, sorry, I took a lot of acid in the '60s. I can't remember. She is genuinely talented. She is a comedian. If she sticks with it, she's going to be a star. I mean, absolutely. She gets it. She knows it. One of the regrets I have about that movie is that I didn't give her enough freedom. I really should have turned her loose more because she was too brilliant. And Erin also, Erin too, just talent exploding. And all I had to do was turn him loose. I really wish I would have. I mean, we rehearsed a lot. We had a lot of pre-production, but I think I didn't really get how talented they were and how I could have probably let them do more on the creative side. So I regret that. But they're great. They're going to be stars. Uh, um, we had some great new composed music. Well, Filipe Melo in Portugal, who composed a full orchestral score based on some classical music by Saint-Saëns. And also, he arranged the kind of jazzy, what's his name? Frank Sinatra's arranger, Nelson Riddle, Felipe Melo in Portugal, arranged Ariel's song about being a crack whore, which I wrote, and he gave it a Nelson Riddle's arrangement. It's wonderful. And I think he also did the arrangement for Erin's song about Miranda, and to which he dances. I mean, it's a wonderful film. It's great, and these fucking idiots don't get it.
I know. Well,
No.
again, we're in the era where, again, freedom of speech is somehow equated with oppression, which is just ridiculous. It's the
By
exact
the way,
opposite of that.
I don't want to interrupt, but I'll forget. Yesterday, one of my heroes, Melvin Van Peebles, you know
Yes,
him?
Passed away.
he died.
Oh yeah.
Amazing. He did everything. I met him a couple of times, and he was a nice guy. He wasn't like Kill the Whiteys, He was totally nice. And his son is even nicer. But what a great man he was. And imagine what he could have done if he was white. I mean, the guy made these movies that changed the world. He also wrote books. He wrote musicals for Broadway that were successful. I mean, he read his obituary in today's New York Times. Imagine what the guy could have done if he had a, he was begging outside on the streets of Paris. I think he
It's-
said wrote a book, or maybe it's in the obituary. Living in on $600 a year.
Speaking
What a
of
man! What a
successes,
what a god! What a great guy! And
I know.
Yeah.
definitely R.I.P. To the man. I mean, he put his all into everything that he did.
He really
Um,
yeah,
did.
he had tremendous guts. I mean, really, and he was brilliant at everything he tried.
Speaking of successes, um, if you could roll back and think about your um, films that you have accomplished, what would be some of your most successful achievements?
I think the most successful achievement is getting scripts that I believe in made.
Hmm.
As Trey Parker says on my Twitter uh, uh, platform, something about Lloyd Kaufman. Nobody makes money losing movies better than Lloyd Kaufman. I think they're great. And the loyal Troma fans, of whom there's not a small amount, have supported us. So we've been able to kind of stagger along for 50 years. And when I'm dead, which is going to be pretty soon because I got a lot of medical problems, uh, I think the Troma team, from back in the James Gunn days to the Poltergeist days to present, they all say when I get hit by a bus, suddenly everyone will say, "Oh, he was a treasure." He spawned Samuel Jackson and Kevin Costner and James, blah blah blah. But right now, I can't, I can't get anybody to answer the phone. But Troma now is doing very well on our platform. There's like 1,000 movies and shorts and videos and how to,
So,
make your own damn movie stuff, and it's doing great. It's just a matter of slowly getting the word out because we have no money.
so what
Yeah.
exactly
Right.
It's,
is
it's
trauma
growing.
now?
Tr- What Troma now? You don't know?
Well, I know,
I
but
I
these
know.
audience members out there may not know.
Well, Troma now is the future, but now.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it's our, instead of going with Netflix or the other ones that are totally sucking the independent world dry, we started our own in the same way we have our own little movie studio and we do what we do. We started a platform a couple of years ago. Now we have Roku and 4 or 5 other platforms that you all like. So it's growing. It's growing. And our movies are great. If you want to change, if you're tired of the same old baby food, media, mainstream media movies,
Hmm.
check out Troma now. It's free the first month, and then everything's only $4.99. So
Yeah.
that's cheap, and you support all these independent filmmakers, including Uncle Lloyd's drug habit. I mean,
Yeah.
Uncle Lloyd's future project.
That's right. Well,
Right.
I felt like so that you mentioned Melvin Van Peebles there, and in relation to yourself, and I think that I think history vindicates you now, Lloyd, but I think it will continue to do so over time because you are courageous in your own way. You are someone who's always willing to push the boundaries. And what is art if not to do that? And you have incredibly unique voice, and it is beloved by so many people all over the world, including myself. So, rest assured that you are loved and cherished by more people than you even necessarily know personally. Um, but I mean, I think that and I bring this all up because William Shakespeare's The Tempest and hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm both are all about kind of a looking back upon a lifetime of work in their own ways. and I really got that impression from the film. But I felt like I saw you do stuff that you'd never done before, like shooting in Albania, and your CGI actually looked really good, um, and you were able to shoot on that ship there. It just a lot of stuff that I'd never seen in a Troma movie. So I mean, you were doing new things, but also I felt like it was a culmination of like the sex comedies and of some mutancy in various spots and social commentaries, all of these things all together, but also a personal reflection. And I really got that impression. That was probably one of the most faithful things about the Shakespeare adaptation process that was preserved. But and I say all that in reference to the fact that you are cherished now and will continue to be so.
Well, thank you. And I waited. The Tempest, a very good point. Uh, very, very good point, Dane. I waited till I was Prospero's age. I would have made The Tempest a long time ago when James Gunn and I were working on Romeo and Juliet. But I wanted to wait till I was old. Yay!
Fine by
Yeah,
James.
it's a good one. It's a
I
good movie.
know. My favorite of
Lots of
yours
fun.
by far.
And bravo, Lemmy. R.I.P.
Well,
Lemmy.
and I love how your Shakespeare theme is not just in Shakespeare shitstorm. It is in Romeo and Juliet. It is in what is that other Shakespeare movie that we got from you. Um,
Blood-sucking freaks.
in a way, that was almost King Lear, right?
Yeah. But it's
But
Well, by the way, you guys should check out, and I'd be happy to send you a link. Mercedes, the Muse, who has some films like Honor Killing on Troma Now,
that's
which
right.
is not. She's just finished a movie which I produced. She wrote, directed, starred in, called Divide and Conquer, and I think she's very talented. And see what you all think. I think she tackles kind of a new feminism,
Yeah.
even though I'm a dirty white Jew. I feel she's on the right track, and
Yeah.
uh,
Well,
and uh, and she gets Stroma. What the fuck, you know? So
yeah.
I think she's brilliant, and I think she made a really, really good film, and it's getting into quite a number of film festivals.
Yeah.
And so is Slashing Part Two, the final beginning, by the guy who wrote Shakespeare's Shitstorm.
Brandon
Uh,
Basham.
yeah, and because it doesn't have all this, I push too far. I go too far, not just mentally, but physically. The sex and violence in Shakespeare's shitstorm is too much, but the political content is too much, and I understand that. Brandon deals with some very contemporary, wonderful. He satirizes this bullshit that's going on in the hashtag Me Too society. But he also presents a movie that's totally available to the mainstream. And Mercedes the Muse totally deals with the issue of women as the underclass, but she does it in a true and honest way, not in a self-serving and ass-sucking way. She's
Yeah.
terrific, and I'd love to know what you guys think about it. If you email me, I'd be happy to send you a link to both Slashing, well, the final beginning, and Mercedes Muse's Divide and Conquer.
Well, I would happily
Just
love
email
to.
me. I'll be happy to uh, send that to you.
Yeah, please
Definitely.
do. I
Yes.
want to check that out. Well, and I,
Secret links, however.
absolutely. Well, now actually, you struck upon something really important. Because I do think you're right that there's issues and then there's the current perceptions of issues, which those obviously change with the times versus what the issues are pretty perennially. Because those are not the same things. But with yourself, I've always felt like your work has tended to be very pro women, and you've had a lot of great performances out of some really outstanding leading ladies, particularly Asta Paredes and Catherine Corcoran, who have now gone on to do even greater things. Like Catherine Corcoran obviously was in Terrifier and in so
Catherine's a star. Class of the Return to Class of Newcomb High and Return to Class of Newcomb High. She goes all the way. She's totally terrific, and she's an amazing person. She loves animals, and she's in #Shakespeare Shitstorm.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, and what a perfect choice for Miranda's mother. I mean, really, I thought
Isn't that
she's
great?
only in there a little bit, but man, she relieves an impression.
Well, how nice was she to do it? Because Catherine doesn't need Troma anymore. She's on her way.
But
Catherine Cochran, she's on her way to being a big star. Now, I have to go, but we could do another episode if you'd like. My wife, the commissioner, is prepared. She is otherwise known as the Blue Apron Trophy Wife.
That's
and
right.
Yep, I've been seeing those videos.
Thank you. Thank you.
Forrest has one more question to ask
Sure,
you
go ahead.
Before we
I've
end the
got
show
about
here.
5 more minutes.
Okay. This question is actually on behalf of one of our co-hosts, Brandon, and he wanted to know where you got the idea for the duck in Newcomb High.
For the what?
The duck.
The duck in Newcomb
The
High.
duck.
The dump?
The duck.
The duck.
Oh, the duck in
Yes.
Return to Newcomb High, right?
Yes.
Duck? Well, honestly, ducks are hilarious, and chickens are hilarious. But I have to credit Travis Campbell, with whom I wrote the script. I think he came up with Kevin the Duck. I think he's the guy.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, that fucking duck was the most expensive human. I don't know, expensive creature in the Return to Newcomb High and Return to Newcomb High, the second half of the movie. He had a manager, an agent. He had 2 friends to be, he had a posse to be with him. He had his own private motel. He's the only one with a private motel room. Everybody slept on the floor of a vacant funeral home. And during sound takes, because apparently ducks need company. We had to put this cage with the other 2 ducks near the set, and then he'd start talking to them during sound takes. So Kevin, thank God Kevin transformed into a hideously deformed duck creature of human.
That's right. Well, he may be a hideous duck mutant, but he's not a Nazi, unlike Donald.
Yeah.
That is good point.
Well, thank you. Go ahead.
Also, I just wanted to mention that I'm actually outside Film Noir in Brooklyn right now, about to catch screening of Maniac Cop for Troma Thursday.
Great! So Film Noir, everybody go to the Film Noir. That's a wonderful theater. It's so cute, and they've got every DVD and Blu-ray you could want. And Will, the guy who runs it, he loves movies. How many movie theater owners love cinema? I would say
none.
None. None. But I think Lemley in California, Greg Lemley, I think he genuinely loves movies. But I think the other ones, all they want to know is who's in it, how much you spend, and fuck Troma. All right, I'm going to leave you, but I'm happy to do it again, Dave. Okay.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate the good time meeting, and hopefully you have a good afternoon wherever you are.
I'm in New York City, the third world city that kills prisoners. We had 12 prisoners die in our supposedly Frank Sinatra's lyrics need to be rewritten.
Man.
But what a horrible thing. And of course, I think they were all black men. So, this is horrible. Horrible.
Yes.
It's awful. And what's her name? AOC? Alexandria.
Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah, she wears a $1 billion dress. I know some fashion designer lent it to her, but how much work went into fitting it to this bourgeois body? By the way, she was born in a rich white enclave in Westchester. Shows up at a $35,000 gala at the Metropolitan Museum about fashion. Fashion. Bullshit. Fashion. The average American doesn't have $500 in the bank, and these fuckers are posting about fuck them and fuck AOC. She ain't no progressive. I'm very sorry.
Quickly to
Yeah,
the
go on.
audience, where can we find your stuff at this current time? Website, address?
You're still
Well,
willing.
Trauma now.
You're still interested after
Yeah.
this. Well, the best thing is, please, if you're independent, if you're interested in independent cinema and supporting a 75-year-old failed cinema creator, go to Troma Now. Troma Now. It's the future, but now, as Dane well knows, and it's free the first month. I think that's the most important thing. Troma.com has basic Troma information, and my fan site, which is LloydKaufman.com, has messages by fans who are very open about criticizing me. So join those websites. But Troma Now, that's the most important, because I think Troma's future sort of depends on Troma Now. So, as does a lot of independent filmmakers, because there's so much talent out there with the liberation of digital cinema, like Dana's making movies. There's so much talent that has been liberated by the fact that you can make a feature-length movie for 2,000, 5,000, 7,000, plus a little help from the Kickstarters or the GoFundMes, and they can be just as good as these, network baby food Netflix movies. We had enough movies about 40-year-old women, or Doctor, what's his name? The 81-year-old man he's been running. Doctor, what's the guy? We see him on TV.
Dr. Phil?
No, he
Dr. Oz?
He could be murdered. No, the good doctor, Dr. Fauci. The guy's been running. Yeah. He's been running the fucking agency since 1984, and he's a great man. I love him. But come on, bring in some young people. Get get Taylor Swift on board. Get an 81-year-old man. He appealed to. I listened to him. I'm 75 years old. But do any of the young people who don't believe, in vaccination, or who are worried that the guy who Microsoft, Bill Gates, is put in cameras into our bloodstream? Get some young people in there. I got to go. Oh, hold on. Watch this. Blue Apron Trophy wife.
Hey there.
Hey.
Thank you. Delicious. Perfect. All right, I got to go.
All right. You have a good evening.
Thank you so much.
That was a boiling.
We'll see you.
I think I got the